I fired off a long, angry message explaining who I was, who my mom was, and exactly what he did to us. He said he and my mom had broken up on bad terms after dating for about a year. She never told him she was pregnant. He tried to contact her afterwards, but she blocked him and cut off all communication. Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen lies about OP's father for 17 years. My mom always told me my father didn't want to have anything to do with me. The truth is, he didn't even know about me. The story I got told when I was 14 was that my dad wasn't actually my biological father. He was the man who married my mom after I was already born. Mom and dad sat me down together and told me because people in our circle kept making comments about how I didn't look like him. Apparently, I'd started asking if I was adopted or something, so they decided to tell me the truth. Yeah, I know, classic small-town gossip ruins everything. Here's the gist of it. The guy my mom got pregnant with didn't care. He didn't want kids and bailed as soon as he found out. My mom decided she wanted nothing more to do with him, so she cut him off completely. No child support, no involvement, nothing. My mom's family is pretty well off, so she didn't need his help anyway. At first, I was hurt, like really hurt. It was a lot to take in, but I got over it quicker than I thought. My mom and dad were there for me, and honestly, my dad is amazing. He's the one who raised me, and he's always been my dad, no question. Fast forward to last year, mom and dad got divorced. They said they just didn't love each other like that anymore, which really sucked, but at least there wasn't any drama. They're still friends, which is more than I can say for most divorced couples that I know. But the divorce stirred up some old feelings for me, and I started thinking about my biological father. I ended up doing the classic look him up online thing. I didn't really know what I was expecting, maybe some deadbeat-looking guy who screamed bad decision. But no, he just seemed normal. And then, in a moment of drunk stupidity, after a night out with friends, I sent him a message. Yeah, I know, dumb move. The message was basically a rant, calling him every name under the sun for abandoning me. The next morning, when I remembered what I'd done, I checked my messages and saw that he'd replied. It was polite, but confused. He said he didn't know who I was or how we were connected, and he thought I might have the wrong person. He even wished me the best. That just made me even more mad. Hungover and still feeling self-righteous, I fired off a long, angry message explaining who I was, who my mom was, and exactly what he did to us. That evening, he replied again. His response was long, and to be honest, it floored me. He said he and my mom had broken up on bad terms after dating for about a year. She never told him she was pregnant. He tried to contact her afterwards because he felt bad about how things ended, but she blocked him and cut off all communication. He claimed he had no idea I even existed until now. That was it. My anger at him disappeared just like that, and now I was angry at my mom. I didn't even have to figure out how to talk to her about it because my biological father went ahead and confronted her himself. Since then, my father and I have been getting to know each other, mostly through texts and video calls since he lives in another country. It's weird, but it's also kind of nice. He seems like a good guy, normal, funny, and thoughtful. He hasn't told the rest of his family about me yet because he wants to take things slow, and honestly, I appreciate that. We're planning to meet up in person soon, and I'm really nervous. I mean, how do you even prepare for something like that? But I think it'll be good. At least, I hope so. As for my mom, I don't know. I asked her why she did it, and she just says she doesn't really know. She blames the pregnancy and her emotions at the time, but how does that explain keeping it a secret my whole life? I love her, but I can't help feeling angry. It's like every time I talk to her, I just want her to feel as hurt as I do. And it's not just me who's hurt. My father is clearly affected too, even though he doesn't talk about it much. My mom knows how I feel because sometimes she'll just tear up when I'm being short with her. I don't know what to do. I'm happy when I'm talking to my father, but then I turn around and feel like I'm drowning in anger when I talk to my mom. I want this to get better, but at the same time, I kind of want her to pay for what she did. How do I even fix this? Update, 1 month later. I finally found out why my mom told me that stupid lie about my biological father not wanting me. It's so maddeningly simple and ridiculous that I don't even know how to fully process it. Apparently, when she started dating my dad, her now ex-husband, he asked about my biological father's involvement in our lives. Put on the spot, she panicked and spun this whole story about how he didn't care about having a kid, they didn't keep in touch, blah blah blah. Over the years, that little panic lie turned into this full-blown soap opera narrative that I eventually got told when I started asking questions about my father. My dad, who raised me, probably didn't want to make things awkward, so he just kind of went along with it and avoided bringing it up. I don't know if he believed her 100% or if he just wanted to keep the peace. Either way, he didn't say much about it until I started asking directly. That's it. That's the reason I didn't know my father for my entire life. because my mom didn't want to look like the crazy, spiteful person who hid me from someone. She turned herself into the crazy, spiteful person who lied about him instead. Great move, Mom. Real genius level decision making there. I can barely stand to be around her now. Every time I see her, all I want to do is scream at her. I don't, but the anger is there, boiling under the surface. I'm civil for now, but it's going to take a long time before I can push this aside and have any kind of normal relationship with her. I know that time will probably come eventually, but not today. On the flip side, there's some good news. I actually met my father. A lot of people were giving me advice in the last post about being careful when I meet him, especially since he lives in a different country. But honestly, everything about him just felt right. Everyone I've talked to who knows him, family members, old friends, even people who only knew him casually, have nothing but good things to say about him. I've also been connecting with his side of the family. Turns out I've got a ton of cousins, aunts, uncles, and even another set of grandparents. It's overwhelming how welcoming they've all been and how overjoyed they are to meet me. We finally picked a date to meet, and he flew into town last Friday. He visited his parents first, my grandparents, which still feels so weird to say, and then we met up later that day. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, he's been so kind and understanding over messages and video chats, but part of me still has this messed up fear that he'd take one look at me and decide I wasn't worth sticking around for. Thanks for planting that seed of doubt, Mom. But none of that mattered. As soon as we saw each other, there was this moment where everything just clicked. He hugged me, and I could feel him shaking, like he was holding back tears. I couldn't hold mine back, though. I started crying for no real reason. We just talked and spent the entire day together. It wasn't awkward or forced. It felt natural, like we were making up for lost time. We ended up spending the whole weekend together. From the moment I woke up on Saturday to the second he boarded his flight home on Sunday, we were inseparable. He wanted to know everything about me, what I like, what I don't, my childhood, my dreams, my struggles. It felt so good to have someone genuinely interested in knowing me for me. And then he did something that absolutely floored me. He asked if he could meet my dad. Not my biological dad, but the man who raised me. He said he wanted to thank him for everything he did for me. When they met, it wasn't awkward like I thought it would be. They talked for a while, just the two of them, while I stepped away to handle something else. I don't know exactly what they said, but it felt like they came to some kind of mutual understanding. They're not best friends or anything, but I think they respect each other, and that means a lot to me. Now that my father's gone back home, I already miss him like crazy, but we're staying in touch, and he's not going to be out of my life again. That's a promise he made to me, and I believe him. It's just wild to think about how much my life has changed in such a short amount of time. I've gained a whole other family, and for the first time, I feel like I filled this piece of myself that was missing for so long. As for my mom, I don't know. I love her, but I can't forgive her right now. Maybe someday, but for now, I just need space to figure out how to move forward. Dad and father liking each other? That's a good sign. Both of them wanted to make sure their daughter would be safe. They both left her mother. I'm seeing a pattern here. The kids open their presents without me. My husband is usually a great husband and father, but right now, I'm so mad. I don't think I've ever been this angry in my life. I woke up around 8:30 this morning when I heard the kids running around. Knowing it was Christmas morning, I got up immediately because I didn't want to miss the excitement. Here's the thing. I have a lot of trouble sleeping, so my husband lets me sleep in every morning. He takes care of the kids until I wake up naturally or need to get up to help with the day. He's used to handling them solo for half an hour to an hour in the mornings and knows what time to wake me up if I oversleep. I walk into the living room and what do I see? Wrapping paper everywhere. Every single present is already unwrapped, and my kids, who are 5 and 7, are happily playing with their new toys like nothing is wrong. My heart sank. I started crying on the spot and just turned around and walked back into the bedroom. Once I got in there, my sadness morphed into rage. I was shaking. I started screaming like a lunatic. Not in front of the kids, of course. I couldn't believe this had happened. I had spent so much time picking out the perfect gifts, ordering or hunting them down in stores, carefully wrapping each one while imagining their little faces lighting up as they opened them. And I had missed it. All of it. My husband came into the bedroom and I completely lost it on him. I yelled at him, "Why didn't you wake me up? It's Christmas morning." He looked confused and just said, "I never wake you up in the morning." That made me even angrier. I snapped, "It's Christmas. Did you really think I didn't want to see the kids opening their presents?" He kind of shrugged and said, "I videotaped it." That was it for me. I called him a jerk and told him he ruined Christmas morning for me. He just stood there and said, "I'm sorry." He didn't try to argue or tell me I was overreacting, which almost made it worse because it was clear he knew he messed up. I spent the rest of the morning stewing. I didn't want to do anything Christmassy. I felt so hurt and disappointed. I know it sounds petty, but watching your kids open their gifts is one of the best parts of Christmas, and I felt robbed of that. Later, I tried to pull myself together for the kids. We played with their new toys, put together Legos, and had some snacks. My husband joined in and helped with the Lego assembly, and we ended up driving around to look at Christmas lights in the evening. It was nice, but there was still this underlying tension. When the kids went to bed, I finally sat down with my husband to talk. He apologized again and explained what had happened. He was working on some project early that morning when the kids came downstairs. They were so excited about the presents that he couldn't hold them off any longer. He said he wanted to let me sleep because he knows how much I struggle with that, so he decided to film it for me instead. I asked him how he would have felt if the roles were reversed, and he admitted it would have sucked. He said he didn't really think it through. Just dad brain, as he put it. I told him how hurt I was and apologized for yelling and calling him names. He said he understood why I reacted that way and assured me that the kids didn't hear anything. We came up with a plan for next year. Santa will still bring one gift for each kid and they can open those up whenever they wake up, but all the other presents won't appear until everyone is up and ready to open them together. In the end, we made up. I know my husband didn't do this to hurt me, and he gets why it upset me so much. Our marriage is solid and we're good at working through stuff like this. But wow, this Christmas morning was rough. Our rule for Christmas morning with the kids was always wait until mom and dad get up and make coffee before opening presents. They learned how to make coffee at an early age to speed up the process. We have 5 kids, 4 to 16. Wife was up until 4 a.m. rapping, and our smallest ones are relentless, so I slept on a mat at the top of the stairs and held a line until she was awake to do presents. How do you tell a former employee that they aren't invited to future team events? I'm a manager of a small team at a family-owned business. One of my team members, we'll call him Jeff, resigned to take a better paying job. He had been with us for a while and was a good worker. We had a small happy hour after work to thank him for his time and wish him well. Here's the odd part. The company Christmas party was the Saturday after his last day. When he gave me his resignation letter, he asked if he could still bring his family to the company Christmas party, even though he would no longer be an employee. I told him that wasn't a good idea. Even though I understood why he was leaving, and he was leaving on good terms, the owner would not think that it was okay. He accepted that. Here's my issue. Every year I host a holiday get-together at my house for my small group to thank them for their work. I have food, drinks, and small gifts for the team. As he was leaving on his last day, Jeff mentioned he was excited to attend my team party next weekend. I was stunned and didn't know what to say. I want to stay on good terms, but I'm not sure why he thinks he should continue to be invited to team events. I plan on sending him an email or maybe calling him to tell him that the event is just for active employees. Has anyone had employees that wanted to linger after leaving? Oh, poor Jeff. He must have genuinely believed all those "we're like family" speeches meant something real. Silly him, thinking that years of hard work and being a good worker would earn him a spot at the holiday get-together. Clearly, he forgot the golden rule of corporate life. As soon as you hand in that resignation letter, you go from valued team member to ghost of Christmas past. It's not his fault, though. He probably thought the whole team thing extended beyond his paycheck. Rookie mistake. Somebody should gently remind him that the warm smiles and camaraderie only last while you're still on the payroll. It's not personal, it's just how family works when a company's involved. OP. We're not family, we're a work team. It's a transactional relationship. If you're so unlovable that you need work people to replace your family, you should seek some counseling. As a work team, we set goals and objectives so that we're both successful. I wouldn't expect the employee to continue working if they weren't paid, and I wouldn't pay them if they didn't work. Also, keep in mind that Jeff left voluntarily. I didn't fire him. He chose his last day, even though he won't start his new job until January. At my job, when an employee quits, we celebrate them and thank them and wish them the best in their future endeavors. We get a little cake or a snack that they like and just chit-chat for a half an hour. Favorite memories, etc. It's just as important for the rest of the team that's staying as it is for the exiting employee. The remaining employees see how valued they are, and they would expect the same treatment if they leave. If they see you excluding an exiting employee, they see that they would be treated the same way. OP. I did celebrate the employee. I paid for a happy hour for him and the whole team out of my own pocket. I wrote him a nice note telling him thank you for his work. How much more do I need to do for someone that moved on? Do you have a personal beef with Jeff? OP. Not at all. He was a good employee, and I tried to give him great training and opportunity to advance. He was friendly with the team, but they didn't hang out outside of work. so I'm kind of puzzled why he would think he should attend. Update. I read through the responses and decided to follow the advice of the majority of respondents and just say nothing and let Jeff attend. I considered putting it to the team and asking their opinions, but eventually decided it was my house and my choice. So Jeff showed up with his wife last Saturday night. Some people were very happy to see him. A few were puzzled and dropped a few comments to me that they found it odd. I took the high road and didn't comment. There was a bit of drama, so I think Jeff will be laying low for a while. Here's what happened. It was a warmish evening, so I got out the fire pit and patio warmers and put some food and drinks on the patio so people could enjoy the night. It also added to the entertainment space since my house isn't huge. During the evening, Jeff took the opportunity to share how much he's enjoying his new job. Fine, whatever. His wife was having a good time also and got lit up. I had not seen her drink before. During the previous parties, she was either pregnant or nursing and abstained. Well, she made up for that Saturday. She was noticeably drunk, hanging on to other guests, making herself real noticeable. Jeff stepped over to talk to her a couple of times, but she wasn't fazed. Well, the inevitable happened. She hit the limit and ran into my yard and threw up in my bushes. Jeff was mortified and the other guests on the patio were annoyed, and some were disgusted and had to go into the house. After she finished, Jeff went in the house to get their things and they quickly left. On the way out, he apologized for what happened and I tried to be nice about it. I was just glad she threw up outside and not inside my house. For goodness sake, we aren't 22 years old, so I think that's the last I will see of Jeff. Thanks for the epilogue. It's funny that Jeff was talking about how much he liked his new job, because of course he was. That's normal party talk. But at the same time, it's why people generally don't want former employees at parties like this. It can cause other employees to start thinking about the greener grass on the other side of the fence. OP. Yeah, several managers warned me about it. I was on the fence, and I guess time will tell if he stirred something up. You want all the shirts stacked on the edge of the table? Sure thing, boss. So I work at a clothing store on the sales floor. My job is pretty straightforward. Help customers find what they're looking for, fold clothes, organize, and restock. You know, basic retail stuff. Anyway, during one of my shifts, I walked past this table that was completely buried under piles of clothes. I mean, it was ridiculous. Some piles were so high that they looked like they were going to collapse any second. I figured that I'd tackle that mess first. As I started sorting through the chaos, I noticed the shelf underneath the table was completely empty. Normally, we use those shelves for excess stock, so I came up with a plan. Make normal, manageable piles on the table and store the extra stuff underneath. It's kind of an unspoken rule that the piles shouldn't be too big, just enough to reach the bottom of the price sign, and only a couple of each size should be on display. Anything else goes into storage. Make it easier for customers to grab what they need without wrecking the entire display. So, as I'm working on it, stacking things neatly, and just as I'm about to start storing the extra clothes on the shelf, one of the managers walks by and asks what I'm doing. I explain my whole process, thinking he'd appreciate the logic behind it. But nope, he wasn't having it. He tells me to stack every single piece of clothing back on the table. I tried to explain why that was a terrible idea. Tall piles are hard for customers to navigate, and they're way more likely to knock stuff over. But he just doubled down and said, "Do it my way." Fine, whatever. I wasn't about to argue all day, so I did what he said. By the time I was done, the piles were absurdly tall. For context, I'm 6'2", and some of these stacks were up to my chest. It looked ridiculous, but hey, not my problem anymore. I moved on to another part of the store. Here's where it gets interesting. In our store, we've got a section for baby and toddler clothes, so parents are always wandering around with their kids. A little while after I left that disaster of a table, this dad was standing nearby with his baby. The kid was up on his shoulder, maybe burping, maybe calming it down. I wasn't paying too much attention. But as the dad was rocking back and forth, trying to soothe the baby, he accidentally bumped into the table. And guess what? A bunch of those sky-high piles came tumbling down. As if that wasn't bad enough, the universe decided to take things up a notch. Just as the dad turned around to see the mess he had made, the baby threw up. And not just a little bit, it was full on. The clothes on the floor, completely covered. I swear it was like a scene out of a comedy movie. There was no saving those shirts. We had to toss them, and there were at least 15, maybe 20 of them. Each one was about $10, so we ended up losing a few $100s in merchandise because of those stupid tall stacks. The cherry on top? That same manager who insisted I stack everything tried to pin the blame on me. He told another manager that I didn't follow instructions or some nonsense like that, but I wasn't about to let that slide. I explained everything to the second manager, from my original plan to how the first manager overruled me. Turns out I wasn't the only one he'd had issues with. Other coworkers had been complaining about him for a while, and this incident was the last straw. Apparently, he got chewed out pretty hard because a lot of the people had been filing complaints about his behavior for months. Am I wrong for feeling like my mother totally disrespected us and ruined our family's Christmas? I, 40 female, made Christmas plans with my parents, who are 66 and 68, for them to come over for both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, the plan was for them to stay until 3 p.m. so they'd have enough time to make the 3.5-hour drive home. Everything seemed solid, and I was looking forward to spending some quality time with them and my kids, who are 19, 11, 8, and 7. A few days before Christmas Eve, my sister, who's 33, who I'm not exactly on great terms with, asked my mom what her plans were for the holiday. My mom mentioned it to me, and since I figured it was time to let things go and try to mend things with my sister, I decided to invite her over for Christmas Day. She said yes, and I thought, great, this could be a good step towards patching things up. Originally, we were going to do Chinese food for dinner on Christmas Day, but once my sister was coming, my parents suggested cooking instead. They initially offered to cover the cost, but that somehow turned into me splitting the bill with them. My sister wasn't contributing, so I went out and bought a ton of food to cook a nice meal. Whatever, I figured it would be worth it to have a nice family dinner. Christmas Eve went smoothly. My parents stayed at a hotel that night, which is their preference, and I thought we were off to a good start. Then Christmas Day rolled around and everything went downhill fast. My parents were supposed to arrive at 9 a.m. so the kids could open their presents with them. My mom loves watching the kids open their gifts and being part of the whole thing. By 10 a.m., they still hadn't shown up or even called to say they'd be late, so I called my mom. When I told her my sister wouldn't be coming because her partner was sick, and because my sister was also feeling nauseous, she absolutely lost it. I thought it was common sense that if someone is sick, they should stay home, but apparently that was the wrong call. My mom started yelling on the phone, saying she was just going to go home instead of coming over. I tried to stay calm, but she was screaming so much I ended the call. I didn't even get to explain that my sister had actually suggested pushing their get-together later in the day, so my mom could still spend time with my family and the kids. After that, she started blowing up my phone, my husband's phone, and my daughter's phone, calling repeatedly. We didn't answer because we were trying to enjoy Christmas morning with the kids. About 15 minutes later, I called my dad to figure out what was going on. Of course, I could hear my mom yelling in the background while he tried to explain. Apparently, they had spent the morning driving around looking for a restaurant because my mom needed to eat. This is a routine thing for her. She always insists on eating out instead of just letting me cook, even though I'm perfectly capable of making breakfast. They eventually decided to stop at a 7-Eleven for eggs. Why? I have no idea. I have eggs at home, and she insisted on doing her own thing. They finally showed up around 10:30 a.m., an hour and a half late, and my mom was immediately upset that the kids had already opened their gifts. She kept saying she wasn't coming, so what did she expect? The kids weren't going to wait around forever. She ate quickly and then rushed to leave, saying they needed to get home by 4 p.m. so my sister could come to their house instead. They barely stayed an hour. My mom didn't even stick around long enough for my oldest daughter to give her the Christmas gift she had picked out. My 19-year-old was hurt, and my younger kids were disappointed too. It felt like they just came over to eat, grab the chicken that was supposed to be cooked that day, and take some leftover ham for my sister. By the time they left, I felt completely blown off. They were supposed to stay until 3 p.m., but they rushed out by 11 a.m. It was clear their priority wasn't spending time with us. My mom had already celebrated the holidays with my sister a few weeks earlier, so I couldn't wrap my head around why she needed to rush back to see her again. To make things worse, 2 hours after they left, my mom texted me saying the hot chocolate and other coffees she had brought over, stuff she told my oldest daughter was for her, was actually for my sister. I mean, seriously? Why even bring it up at that point? It felt like a petty jab. All in all, my parents' behavior left us with no Christmas plans. We could have invited my father-in-law over, but we didn't because my parents were supposed to be here, and my mom doesn't really like him. Plus, my husband doesn't think my father-in-law feels comfortable around them. Looking back, I wish we'd just gone ahead with our own plans. It was a disaster, and I feel like I went out of my way to make things nice for everyone, only to get disrespected and brushed aside. Am I wrong for feeling like my mother disrespected my family and myself with her actions? Karen demands a silver laptop. This story dates back to about 9 years ago when I, male, 31 at the time that the story took place, worked as a lead IT technician for a large multinational company. The company had a range of different laptops available for employees to choose from that were classified by their size and weight. This is important for later, including standard laptops, which had a 14-inch screen, as well as lightweight laptops, smaller and thinner with a 12.5-inch screen, handy if you're a frequent traveler. Most of these laptops were pretty boring, gray business devices, nothing special to look at. Anyway, one day the computer manufacturer introduced a new lightweight laptop model that was silver in color and a far more sleek and good-looking than the previous gray model. We had deployed a few of these around the building and soon got a visit from a lady who had seen one of her colleagues with a shiny new silver laptop and had developed a severe case of shiny device envy. We'll call her Karen for the purpose of this story. Karen: how do I go about getting one of those smaller laptops? Me: your current standard laptop isn't due to be replaced yet, but you can request a change to a lightweight laptop on the AITA website. Your manager will need to approve it, however. Now, to be honest, I wasn't a particular fan of people who waste the company's money simply by wanting the latest shiny gadgets, especially because it creates additional work for my team and involves replacing equipment that's still perfectly functional and within warranty. But I behaved in a professional manner and I simply towed the company line. Karen walked away, and the next day an approved request came through for a lightweight laptop. Fair enough. What she didn't know was that company policy dictated that we only provided a brand new laptop if we didn't have usable second-hand laptops in stock. For example, the ones that IT handed back in when they left the company. Being the good IT tech that I am, I scoured our return shelf, and sure enough, there was a used lightweight laptop in stock. Unfortunately for this lady, it was last year's gray model. But rules are rules, so I asked one of my team to prep it for her. She's then told that it's ready and comes along to pick it up. She takes one look at it and promptly throws a tantrum. This isn't the one I wanted the silver one. Me: sorry, company policy is that we can only order a new laptop if we don't have usable second-hand ones in stock. Karen: but this is not the one that I ordered. Me: yes it is. You ordered a lightweight laptop and this is exactly what we've set up for you. I turn the laptop over and I show her the company's sticker, confirming that it's the same classification of lightweight laptop as her request. And I show her that it's physically smaller and lighter than her existing laptop. No, I wanted a new silver one. This is unacceptable. I'm going to complain to your boss. She stormed off in a huff, and I could soon hear her complaining inside my boss's office. Unfortunately, although my boss knew I was just following the process, he couldn't handle all of the repeated moaning and soon folded and asked me to order a new device for her. I wasn't pleased at being overruled when I was simply applying company policy, particularly when it's just a waste of money for an employee that wants the latest silver gadget, so cue malicious compliance. I could have just scoured our shelf of brand new laptops and dug out a new one for her. We installed dozens of laptops a week. It was a big company, so we always had plenty of new ones in stock. But I was told to order a new one. That's the process that I'd follow. Me: okay, we can order a brand new silver one for you, but you'll need to raise another request ticket so we can order the laptop from it. I said this knowing full well that this ticket would go to Karen's manager once again for approval, a manager who has a finite department budget. Sure enough, an hour later, I get a phone call from their manager. Manager: why is Karen ordering yet another laptop? Me: she didn't like the color of the laptop we'd prepared for her. It was gray and she wanted a silver one. Manager: how much is this going to cost me? Me: well, you'll still be paying the monthly lease cost on their original laptop as it wasn't due for replacement, plus the lease costs on the lightweight laptop we prepared for her earlier. And there'll also be the lease cost for this new laptop as well. Manager: oh, no way. I'm not paying for all that. I'll reject this ticket and I'll have a word with her. A short while later, Karen returns. She's rather quiet and humble now after being chastised by her boss for trying to waste all of his budget in the pursuit of having the latest shiny silver gadget. She quietly accepts the gray lightweight laptop we prepared earlier for her and then quickly departs. I spend the rest of the day with a grin on my face. Am I the jerk for yelling at my boyfriend for eating my donut? This is so dumb, but this is somehow one of the biggest fights we've had. I bought a crappy donut earlier today after me and my boyfriend finished some Christmas shopping and had dinner. I bought one and we were going to share it. We regularly share food. We go to my parents' house to pick up our dog and chill out a bit before going home. I'm in the bathroom and my boyfriend starts eating my donut and telling me how bad it is. Stale and there's no cream in it. It's a Boston cream. I tell him that there's no way he's eating my donut right now and to stop, or at least save me some of it. He eats the whole donut. I get out of the bathroom and I'm kind of upset. I wanted some of that donut tonight. He's being silly and put himself in the corner in the kitchen, pretending he's there out of shame. I'm upset and ask him if he really ate it, and he makes a joke and says it was so bad and not worth the calories. I just wanted a donut, so I tell him that and he should have saved me some. He says that he apologized here, but I don't even remember this. We go back into the living room and my dad is telling me to drop it and that I'm overreacting for no reason. My mom is telling my boyfriend to apologize just because it obviously bothered me, and that's reason enough to apologize. My mom was kind of condescending towards him and the vibe got tense. I don't want to start some dumb fight over nothing, so we say our goodbyes and leave. On the way home, I ask him to apologize, and he says I'm making a big deal out of nothing and hugely overreacting. I say he's gaslighting me. We're both upset. We get home and keep talking about it in circles. I just want an apology to end this, and he starts yelling that I'm acting like a 5-year-old and that I made a scene in front of my parents and that I'm overreacting so badly he doesn't even recognize me. I'm mad because he's gaslighting me into thinking I'm wrong and yelling at me for no reason, and it doesn't matter if the donut was bad or not. At least half of it was mine. Anyways, he yells, my feelings are hurt, and we go to separate rooms and chill out for a bit. Later, we talk about it a bit and we both apologize, but maintain that we are in the right. So Reddit, who's in the right in this extremely dumb fight? We have both reviewed this post and we agree with its facts. Him, he claims he wouldn't have been mad if I ate the last Oreo as an example, and that I dragged it out for too long, meaning my anger because it was just a donut. He says that he felt singled out by my mom, and that's worse than the donut. Edit. My boyfriend insisted I add that we've been together for 8 years, and that if this happened a month into our relationship, he agrees it would be psychotic. But what's a donut or two after 8 years? Not the jerk. He ate your half of the donut. He knew you were meant to share it. He then made excuses for eating the whole thing and then tried to blame you for overreacting. And tried the old, I wouldn't be mad if you did the same. You know he would be. He owes you a donut or a donut equivalent. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.